Yes, welcome back to the news today. This is the Daily Debate. Tomorrow, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and United States President Barack Obama will meet in the White House. With the Middle East changing at a tremendous rate, a cooperation between these two, between Jerusalem and Washington, is essential. But a relationship between Netanyahu and Obama is known to be tense and strained, possibly more so than any time in history of the United States-Israel ties. We asked today whether it's too late to save the relationship between these two leaders, and tonight with me, my two favorite gentlemen, Marc Zell, co-chairman, Republicans Abroad Israel. Thank you very much for coming.
Great to be here.
And Mr. Sheldon Shorer, spokesman for the Democrats Abroad Israel. Thank you very much for coming.
My pleasure.
But before that, we asked the same question to our viewers, and let's hear what they had to say about that. Ayman?
Yes, good evening, Lucy, and good evening to our viewers. So as you mentioned in the studio, relations between Benjamin Netanyahu and the Obama administration have been tense, especially after the Israeli Operation Protective Edge in Gaza. But is there hope for the two leaders still? We put the question to our viewers. We asked them, is it too late to save the relationship between Netanyahu and Obama? Now, in Israel, the view on this issue is quite strong. But let's take a look first at the global view and the results of our daily poll. As you can see, Lucy, 54%, so just over half of our respondents, said yes, there is hope for the two leaders to redo the relationship in the proper way, but 40% still said no. But we also asked our viewers to weigh in with their comments on the issue. Let's review what they shared with us today. First up, we have Gili, who says it's never too late, but it would make little difference because any improvement in the relationships will not help because of the way Obama is handling his foreign affairs. We should say that this is a widely held view that he's expressing here about Obama's foreign affairs policy. Next up, we have David, who asks, does it matter? David says it was just revealed that Obama does not attend his security meetings, so he's not up to date on what's really going on in the world. So far, it seems our respondents are holding the American president responsible for the crisis in the relationship with Israel. Let's take a look at one more comment. We have Orhan, who agrees that it is never too late, saying, dear Israeli friends, I hope there will be peace in the Middle East one day. So a more hopeful view there, and also one that addresses the Israeli front. But that concludes our comment section for today. As always, we encourage our viewers to continue sharing their ideas with us on Facebook and Twitter, and having their say by voting on our daily poll on i24news.tv. Back to you, Lucy.
Thank you very much, Ayman. So our viewers are still optimistic, but I think that you two are not.
Well, I got one question. I read that poll just now, and the question was, is it too late to save the relationship?
54% said yes, which means that
It's too late.
they're negative, not positive.
I think I'm headed the other way around.
I'm looking at the other side. I am looking at the side that maybe
so you're in the 40%
are saying maybe it's not too late, gentlemen, but you are not that optimistic.
Well, no, I am optimistic. I am optimistic. But there's some built-in problems. I'll give you one example. First of all, the problem with the relationship between the two parties is not only personal. That's any two people have their own individual quirks and differences. That's not what's at play here. What you have here are two leaders of two countries, and they represent their countries, and there are divergent interests. Here's the example. In the speech in the UN, Benjamin Netanyahu said, ISIS and Hamas are the same. These are dangers, and they're exactly the same. Right. And they see the two as the same. Now, America is going out against ISIS right now in a war because they perceive ISIS as a danger and a threat to themselves. America does not see Hamas as a danger to itself. It is not a threat to the United States.
Unless you're a member of the jury on the Eastern District of New York, so New York had found the Arab Bank liable for funneling money to Hamas.
No. But they see the two as divergent. Secondly, there is a difference between the two. And one of the differences is that Hamas does represent the population and has been recognized by Abu Mazen as a partner and part of the PLO. So to say that they are bad and should be beaten in the same way that ISIS, that's not an American's view. So you have already a divergent interest because of the two different countries.
But I will add to this equation that Benjamin Netanyahu also made the connection between the Islamic State and the Islamic Republic, which means that what he is saying and maybe hinting to the United States is, hey, you are basically cooperating right now against Daesh with a country that basically is Daesh. So, am I right?
Well, I think you're absolutely right. In fact, that's the really important comparison that Netanyahu made in yesterday's speech. I mean, he's saying, look, Daesh or ISIS is a formidable, serious threat to the peoples of the Middle East, including to Israel. But the real threat is in Tehran, because of the nuclear, the possibility that the Iranians are going to get nuclear weapons, and the Israeli government recently disclosed, according to information that it has, that the Iranians have been conducting nuclear weapons tests at the Parchin nuclear development facility. Something the United States can't live down. The problem here, and I'll say another comment. There is a personal problem between these two men. There is. But their personality differences has also sublimated into policy differences, not the cause of it. Obama's view of the world is fundamentally different from Netanyahu's. Obama came to office with a doctrine which was aimed at reducing the American footprint in the world, to reduce the American presence in the Middle East in particular, with the idea that every problem internationally can be resolved through reasonable dialogue, particularly if Obama is handling it.
He's handling the dialogue.
Netanyahu has told this president from the beginning of the Obama administration, Mr. President, with all due respect, this is not correct. And many of us here in this part of the world have also been saying this. You are missing the point. And this is another extremely important point. Obama went on the 60-minute program the other night and gave an interview. And he said that his intelligence agencies had missed the boat when it came to predicting and realizing the threat of ISIS. He tried to pass the buck to the intelligence agencies. But this is something, the problem here is the Obama administration's conception of the world. In other words, we had this problem in 1973 in the Yom Kippur War. The United States are having this problem right now, and that's why they missed ISIS. The intelligence was there. All the information was there. Many in this administration's lower echelons saw it. The president just couldn't see it.
Maybe the president was too occupied by catching Osama bin Laden. Maybe President Barack Obama wanted to say this sentence, "We got him." He was so occupied with Al-Qaeda that he didn't realize that, of course, he will have to deal not only with Osama bin Laden, he will have to deal with his followers. He will have to deal also with something maybe more extreme than Al-Qaeda. And this is what is happening on the ground. Maybe it's because he's refusing to see anything beyond what he is seeing.
Well, let's understand that foreign policy was not the primary interest of the administration, especially during the first term of the administration.
That's why it went to Cairo in 2009?
Then the problem...
Excuse me.
The serious problem that was facing the United States was the economic problem. So therefore, the United States did not focus on foreign policy and did try a policy of where negotiations and accommodation
and
would work.
talking
right.
to the
Lucy,
world,
that's
exactly
to our world, to the Muslim
I ask you,
world.
please,
Sheldon,
let me finish.
that's simply
I ask you to
false.
let me finish the sentence.
It's factually incorrect.
No, it is factually correct. What happened is America was mired in two wars that had been started by the previous administration. One
Here
in
we
Iraq,
go again.
Afghanistan, and Iraq. And there was the interest of the United States to try to find a different way of relating to the Arab world. Now we see a change. America is now going in with weaponry in full force to go into to fight ISIS. And this change could make a fundamental, a complete shift in the way the United States is dealing with problems. And the fact that it is going in with weapons recognizes that there are certain types of problems that cannot be resolved by negotiations and do require force, and ISIS is one of those.
Mark, let's look at it from like the Iraq point of view and the war the Bush administration left a big mess to this new administration. It left a big mess in Iraq. It left a big mess in Afghanistan. It left a big mess and to handle. And maybe this new administration, or not new, it's already old, but this administration is saying enough is enough. I don't want to deal with wars anymore. It's costing me a lot of money. It's costing me to lose. It's hurting my inner
Lucy,
interest.
may I interrupt you?
Yes, of course.
First of all, the Bush administration left a good situation for the United States in Iraq.
Are you kidding?
I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding at all. If the viewers will recall exactly what happened in 2008. There was something called the surge that happened 2007, 2008, which eradicated Al-Qaeda in Iraq. Ramadi, Fallujah, all these areas which are now ISIS strongholds were taken back and restored to Iraqi sovereignty before Obama came to the
But
presidency.
maybe they didn't read the map about what happened on the ground,
No.
about the problems between the Shiite and the Sunnis and the Kurds and the big mess. because
The
you
rise
cannot
in
expel-
Iran is directly related to the stupidity of going into Iraq. And I used the word
again,
advisedly.
if you had your fact, look, I'm
Advisedly.
not here to debate history, but I'll say this: Obama came in with Iraq with a situation where he could pull the troops out. That's what he wanted to do. By the way, in Afghanistan, he wanted to do the exact opposite. He ran on an exact opposite program in Afghanistan, with respect to Afghanistan. But in Iraq, Bush left him the opportunity to resolve and reduce the American presence in Iraq. What happened was, because Obama's doctrine, it's a doctrine, a way of looking at the world, was to reduce not only the American presence in the Middle East, but around the globe, and to engage America's potential antagonists like Russia and the Chinese and others in open dialogue. What the administration did was said, okay, we're taking the troops out, everything is going to be okay. What happened when they did that, against the advice of military commanders and the Iraqis themselves, caused a vacuum in Iraq that allowed the splinters that were left of the Al-Qaeda organization to regroup together with those dissatisfied Sunni leaders from the time of even Saddam Hussein. And they created this monster during those 2 years, the first 2-3 years of the Obama administration. And the Obama administration didn't see it. They didn't see it because they were blinded by their own conception. Now, Obama didn't create ISIS. I don't blame Obama or the administration for the problem of the Middle East, but I do blame him for not seeing the problem arise on his watch during his administration when he had full authority.
Or maybe he saw the problem and he didn't want to act, like what he did in Syria. Like
I think
he draw red lines and he said, okay, I draw the red line, but it doesn't mean that if
in Syria
they
he also missed
cross
the
the
boat.
red line, we will
I don't believe they saw it. I don't believe they saw it. They didn't see it because they were blind to it by their own notion of what the reality was in the Middle East.
Sheldon.
Yeah, I think we're off.
Yeah,
We're off Obama and Netanyahu, and we are debating history. I just don't understand how you can say the Bush administration made it possible to leave, but once they leave, it's already Obama's responsibility.
You know what? I will take you back to this, Sheldon. I will take you back to this. Do you think that Israel can allow itself to actually argue with the United States, to blame the United States in something, to point finger and say, you are not paying attention to anything because I'm the one who's right?
We have a couple of different things that have come on, and I think the UN debate, I think, was important. The stand that was taken by Abu Mazen in pointing fingers at Israel that said that Israel is causing genocide, which is absolute nonsense. That and they are connected with Hamas in a very strong way, demonstrates that at this time, peace negotiations with the PLO doesn't look very optimistic and doesn't seem this. That is a change. That is a change. Now, if that's the change, does President Obama recognize this as a change, that Israel cannot negotiate peace? And if so, how are you going to deal with that? This is a changed reality, and this is something that they have to deal with. The second thing is that the whole discussion, the whole incident of ISIS, I still say, has cast a pall over the entire negotiations and shows a different shift in the way that America is dealing with problems.
Do you think
Remember that only Israel has been the victim of Islamic terrorism, and America has been the victim of Islamic terrorism, and that puts them in the same sort of boat.
Will this put the United States give it a perspective?
I don't think so. And when you look at the signs, I mean, take the American response to ISIS. It's classic. This president reluctantly authorized the use of American airstrikes first in Iraq, and then very reluctantly in Syria. But the president is still captive of his own worldview. And that's why I'm very pessimistic, along with the 54% of your viewers who voted that way, about what can come out. Now, I also like to comment on the point about Israel. I'm sorry, go
Mark,
ahead.
I really wanted to finish this discussion by you being optimistic.
Me optimistic? I'll tell you what makes me optimistic. When Prime Minister Netanyahu got up in front of the United Nations yesterday
10 seconds.
and made the case for Israel, that made me
5.
optimistic.
Gentlemen, thank you very much for this.
You make me optimistic, Lucy.